Welcome to Rosabel Unscripted. This is the podcast where we explore the raw, real, and unscripted moments that shapes our life. The ones that challenge us, break us, and ultimately help us rebuild stronger, beautiful lives. I'm your host, Rosabel Soto, a nurse practitioner who's spent years in healthcare watching how our bodies and minds respond to the pressures of modern life. Today, we're going to be diving deep into that intersection of health, entrepreneurship, and what does it really mean to thrive without burning out. My guest is Bron Watson, founder of the social coach and creator of the S.E.R.E.N.I.T.Y project. After navigating cancer twice while running her business, breast cancer, and then an incurable blood cancer diagnosis in 2023. Bron, she developed a framework for sustainable resilience that helped women protect their dreams without sacrificing their well-being. She speaks internationally on resilience, social media strategy, and compassion-led entrepreneurship. She's based on Port Macquarie, New South Wales, Australia, and you have a community also in the United States.
Yes.
Bron, you blend empathy with evidence-based strategy, inspire women to build businesses and lives that bend without breaking. Bron, how about we begin with a little bit of your story, your background?
Thank you for having me, for starters. And I'm actually also a registered nurse educator and have been for a long time. And so I'll put some context there because that's part of how we ended up here. And so I've had a dual career in nursing and marketing for a long time. And obviously when you're in those spaces, you give. You give because that's how you get drawn to such as a career as nursing. So through all of those years, I'm married to my husband, Paul, and we have 5 amazing sons, still giving. And so when I got to, I think it was my 39th birthday, I have a 5th child on my hip and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, is this it? Is this what I signed up for? Wow. Because I had this feeling that I wanted more, destined for more. There was something there. I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do for me because obviously I'd given a lot to a lot of people around me. So that's when I started my first business, and it was called Nurse Power, and I got a beautiful mentor. I built a business, and then I evolved into a business called, I didn't know what to call it, so it was called Bron Watson, which is now the social coach. And it was because so many people ask me, how do you build a business online? How do you get out of nursing? How do you grow something when you're in a profession that isn't really designed for entrepreneurship? And so then I started to teach people online. And so going through all of that, I did what everybody else did, what I saw online, which was you hustle, you work hard, you just keep going, which is what I did. And it was successful, but through those years, so through that 2012 to 2017, I had this feeling through that business where we were mentors and we were running retreats, we were doing workshops, we had all the courses online, doing all the things that show us that we're successful. And I was successful, but not for me as a human. And that's when in September 2017, the words, "You have breast cancer, I know it's not in the early stages," to 6 days later ending up on an operating table. And the world started to spin out of control. And that's sort of like what I call, that was sort of like the awakening part of growing businesses and life when it's not in alignment. You see it yourself, no doubt, being in education and the space that you're in. And it's, you don't know what you don't know until you have an awakening of some description. Unfortunately, mine was a brick through the back of the head, the size of Mars, with a problem. Because, of course, straight on the operating table, straight to chemotherapy. And I used to say my favorite thing was I wanted to deliver what I said I was going to deliver because that's what I was known for. I was the reliable one. I did the things. But that's the relentless part of life where I was doing it for everyone else. And it wasn't till I think it was the second chemo. So breast cancer chemotherapy is brutal. And second chemo, and I caught a glimpse of myself. And I'm thinking, oh, who is that person? I don't recognize. Who is she? My question is me. I had this round face, no hair, and I had just delivered Facebook Live into my group because that's what you do, right? And I caught a glimpse and I looked and I literally pointed at myself and I said, do you want to die? Because if you keep this up, you're in trouble, girl. And I shut that mentoring business down overnight with no plan B.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, that makes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like on the same boat. I work 40 hours. I had that conversation in my head, like, okay, why do I keep doing this? So far, I'm enjoying it. I'm doing well. But I think about those things too, because again, we give and give and give. And there's some days that you feel like you're going to break, right?
Yes.
And then what I do, honestly, is I pray for strength to keep on going. I don't even pray for help. Isn't that interesting? Because
It
we
is.
think that asking for help, maybe it's, I don't know.
It did not come naturally to me. And I had the most amazing people come and help me. One lady who I'd only just met that year in soccer, she was a soccer mum. I'm a soccer mum with our youngest child, her youngest child as well. And she turned up with a washing basket of food. She said, Bron, I'm not staying. I'm just giving you guys some food. You remember there's 7 in this family at this stage. And I couldn't stop crying uncontrollably because I couldn't believe that someone could be so caring to me. And you don't know what you don't know until it smacks you in the face.
Until it happens to us, right?
And yeah, and you might think it'll never happen to you. I never thought it would happen to me. I was never, ever sick, ever. To this day, cancer has not made me sick. I have had not one Garrick of a symptom with cancer, because you got to remember, I did a lot of work around that space. I rebuilt the business. I had to morph with what I had. So remembering, mentoring gone, what was left? What did I have left that I could possibly put together? And I started running Facebook workshops, 4-hour Facebook workshops back in the day. This is back in 2018. And because I'd done a lot of work with a lady called Jennifer, who was a very significant person with Barack Obama's second social media campaign. So she knew a thing or two about social media. People don't change. That's what I laugh. I had someone say to me not that long ago, Bron, aren't you too old? Aren't you too old for this space? And it's like, no, that's my wisdom, darling. Thank you for asking. Because people are people. Marketing is emotional. It's an emotional connection. That is the role of marketing, is to connect emotionally, and then in comes promotion and advertising. So I started doing these workshops, and I would have chemotherapy. I think it was on a Wednesday or Thursday, but I would plan the workshops to be the day before of the week before so that I wasn't sick. Oh my goodness. I see photos of myself. Rosabel, I see photos and I think, wow, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? But financially, not everyone has options. We didn't have options. And then that's when I started doing what I now call the Serenity Project work, because I am the project. I'm the beta test. And fast forward to the 23rd of February, 2023, I'm sitting in that doctor's office again. And what do I hear, Bron? You have multiple myeloma. It's incurable, and we're starting chemotherapy next week, and you're having a stem cell transplant in July.
Wow.
Now that's the one that really, that's the one where I don't even say brought to my knees. I was flat in the ground. I was 54, and I would sit out the back of my house and just insert whoever you believe you guys insert. I would literally look up to the trees and the skies and go, please God, give me time. Give me time. My baby's still a baby. He's a teenager now, but he's still my baby, And I prayed for time. That's all I wanted. And I didn't get it because I started chemotherapy the next week. And you're on a very high dose of dexamethasone, very high steroids. So, the boys started calling me Sergeant Dex because I would to this raving lunatic, and they, Sergeant Dex is in the house. And that was their way of saying, Mum, you need to just chill the hell down. And I then started working with an energy healer, and I started to Because I get told back back in the day, a mentor would say to me, "Oh no, Bron, you just got to let it go. You've got to let it go." And it caused such stress because it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. How? I would let go if I could. And this is the thing when you are giving, especially women, when we are such giving humans, letting go is not the thing to say. And now what I say, because I have obviously, with a mother, you've got this song Froze from Frozen playing in my head, right? And now it's like, you know what? John Lennon and the Beatles nailed it. Let it be. Just let it be, meaning don't give it energy.
Exactly. And somehow we tend to quibble our worth. Like if we're not doing something, if we're not giving, it's like something happens to us. We're not, I don't know. We're the same people. We're as valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, there's a little voice inside every single one of us, but it will whisper. And if you are running flat out, you won't hear it. And in business, for me, you want to slow down to speed up if you want to speed up, or because then you can choose. But, without that pause, without the space to be able to listen to what your body is saying to you, that's where neuroscience comes in. You're all over this, where we want to listen to what's going on and let the brain do. And then work out like we are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
Thoughts aren't necessarily real. So, you can catastrophize things. I'm allowed to say that for someone who's been given the level of uncertainty that I've been given. I've learnt, and you can learn it. You can learn to sit really, really comfortably in uncertainty. I call it the vortex of fear, and I just walk around the top of it. Sometimes I fall in, sometimes I don't. But I've learned how to keep walking around the top.
And be comfortable also learning how to delegate. It's so hard for us because a lot of times we think that if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it like the way we do it, kind of thing like that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And delegation doesn't mean, hey, can you go and do that for me? Delegation can be, you know what? I call it ugly tired. I get these I call it ugly tired. So it's a tiredness that sleep and rest doesn't heal, and it's part of cancer treatment. And I'll say to my family, guys, I'm just in an ugly tired. It's just a wave at the moment, and I'm just going to go and hang on the lounge. I'm not saying, can you go and do X, Y, and Z? I'm just saying I'm out and let them figure it out. That's what letting be. In terms of delegation, delegation doesn't mean giving lists to people. It can just mean that I'm just out for now.
I was going to ask you too. So how do you define the hustle culture?
What I found for me, because I can only talk for me, the hustle culture was very much, because I'm not there anymore, is you'll see it all over social media, grow your audience to 60,000 in 30 days and all this stuff, right? And it's all of this expectation that for those of us who've been in the trenches for a while, we know that's not possible. 7 figures in 30 days. Okay, it may happen, but it's not your typical way of growing a business. So hustle is when you've got such expectation on yourself and you set such goals that you will do whatever it takes and zero input from it. You don't give yourself, you're not part of the equation. So when you do your business plan, do you put you in there? Do you know what I mean? So where's Bron in that business plan? Whereas my goal in business, I haven't done a business plan until this year. It's taken me 3 years to get to this, just after the myeloma, because of the uncertainty. But I still wrote in pencil, but I did do it. But my goal is one word. It's called healing. I'm on a path of healing. But when you're on that goal of healing, all of the things that normally go into a business plan, are they in alignment with healing? So hustle is the opposite of that. And I think that we marketers and online marketers have done us a disservice by painting it into something that is not sustainable. You could do it for a while, but it's not sustainable. I've done it and I grew a very successful business, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen to everyone, but adversity comes in all shapes and sizes, and I can only talk for myself. Hustle is the relentless chase for something that may not even be real or relevant.
Now, while you're talking about this, I'd like to bring all honesty here because I have a business that I started, and sometimes I don't consider my business successful, meaning it's not successful like money-wise. Let's put it this way. My nursing medical career is my main job, what I do. Casting, it's just more kind of like I would call it fun. I would call it healing. I would call social. I would call it just being me. But yeah, a lot of times I ask myself that question about the whole expectation. I wonder if I'm doing it wrong, meaning I wonder if I'm at the other side. Because you mentioned the expectation about growing, and I'm just doing it and enjoying it. And then, I don't know, maybe I don't have a whole lot of expectations as far as like get it going fast. I'm seeing myself as learning from the process type of thing because I'm a learner and entrepreneurial. And so I have a couple of people working with me. I don't even say working for me because sometimes and I said, no, we're a team. But to me, this is more like a learning process. And so we do one thing. If it works, okay, great. And then we move to the next. But I try not to put too much, I don't know, stress myself out of it because it's, again, I remind them, hey, listen, this is not like, oh my God, we gotta make it because if we don't get this, or, it's like a livelihood type of thing. So I don't know. Some days I wonder, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Maybe I'm not successful to other people, but to me, success is just being content where you are and kind of happy. So
Exactly. So your goal might be to be the best nurse educator, nurse out there. And your way of sharing that can be the podcast and what comes with the podcast. There's that concept, there's that option, or there's the option of going, where's the entrepreneurial side of us come in, is, well, how can I monetize this? How can I make this my primary focus? So it took me 2 years to leave nursing fully by the time I kicked fully into being able to sustain myself financially. And I put a lot into it. Look, at some times, I worked very hard. So you're thinking, well, that's hustling, Bron. It is hustling, but there's hustling with purpose based on resilience versus hustling with purpose based on being relentless. So there's a different sway there, right? Whereas I did the relentless thing. And was it the right or wrong? Well, it doesn't matter because it happened. But if you're wanting to, so for anybody who's out there who's got, I love it how it's all got a side hustle now. If you're wanting to start, or if you're wanting to grow your business, give it the respect it deserves. You are the CEO. You are the boss. You are the leader. And that business is a business. Don't think of it as, if you call it a side hustle, well, you're going to treat it like a side hustle. But if you want it to be a business, be the CEO. What would a CEO do in that space? And be the CEO. So that's where intention comes in, and being who. So in health, I now am the CEO of Bron Watson. So when I walk into any medical appointment, when I do anything, I'm the CEO. I'm an active participant. I'm not a passive bystander. And who's on my executive committee? Who's going to help me make the decisions that are the best for Bron's CEO? I use that same mentality with my health that I do with my business. So if you're wanting to grow your business, we want to give it the respect it deserves. It doesn't necessarily mean time, but it definitely needs to be treated with respect. And that's where success and the definition of success can come in. Like, I've kept my very first 90-day plan back from 2012, and my goal, all I wanted to do was make $100,000. That's all I wanted to do. I had no idea how. So I kept chasing, remembering I'm in relentless mode. I'm in control mode. I needed to know it all, and I wanted to know it now, and I wanted all the dots in front of me. That is not how it works. I hate to say it to you guys. That is not how it works. My dearest friend, Kerry, and I say this in health, I know I will. I just don't know how. So if you are the CEO, you start showing up as the CEO, not as the side hustle queen. You know what I mean? Be the CEO. Right. And I know I will. I don't know how. So what's it going to get to? So it might not be leaving your professional career.
Right.
It could be going 3 days a week. I don't know. And breaking that back to making it doable.
Because I love what I do. I love what I do.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's interesting what you mentioned because I don't feel like this is a side hustle. So now it is making a lot of sense to me.
It is.
I go to work and I feel I'm the same person. I'm teaching people here, and it's all integral, like a one part. I don't really feel like divided though, like a half and half.
Well,
So that's it. I guess that's like this.
yeah, it is. And I'm not saying it is, right? Because I hate the word side hustle. I'm not a side hustle
Right.
fan. That's why I used it, because that's not what I'm saying. Bron, the
Right.
educator, Bron is the educator, Bron is the nurse. But I am not my career. First of all, let's just get some identity issues out of here. It's around identity and what we hold on to. But what you're bringing to the podcast, this side of you, of course, it's identical to how you would bring to your patients and who you're teaching. Absolutely. And if it wasn't, then you'd be going, is that really in alignment? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm talking about the chase. I'm talking about the relentlessness. In my case, it could be going to making $100,000. It could be whatever the goal is. You might go, I am so content with my professional career, and I am so happy that I can show up over here and help people over here in this space. That's the success. Doesn't have to have a dollar figure.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's like enjoying the process. And the other thing but again, this could be very, very personal. I always think about those people who win the lottery or reach success like this. If you look at that, it doesn't last. It doesn't last, and it seems to be that sometimes they end up even worse than when they started. So that's why I'm more like, if it happens, great, love it, welcome, but it's not that I gotta have it kind of thing, you know.
That's
probably it's because I'm more thinking about the people behind the camera and like how am I helping them and how can we? But again, this all that the nursing in us, right? We just want to
that's
give,
the nursing in you, and that's the give, right? So where that comes about is, if I said to you, if I could wave my magic wand and you and I are fast forwarding, I don't know, 2 years, where would we be?
2 years forward or forward, right? Not
where
back.
would you be? But in the magical space, right? Not in where you go, oh, well, I don't know. And that's because your brain's already kicking in by that stage. Your brain is already starting to go, you're the neuroscience. Your brain is already starting to go, whoa, 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 whoa. Versus, say, for me, 2 years, man, I'm still in my healing space. Have I gone through active treatment again? I don't even bring that into it. But my book has released. My podcast is going brilliantly well, and I am connecting with thousands of people because I'm on a mission to change the way we treat our cancer patients. So in 2 years' time, man, I'm speaking to the Minister of Health. I'm there.
Beautiful.
Do you see what I'm saying? I'm already connected to that. So that's what I mean about waving magic wands as if it were now. And I'm the Bron now that I'm going to be in 2 years' time, but I'm learning that. So that's why.
Exactly what I thought. I feel like I will be the same one in 2 years. Let me ask you this real quick. Don't you find these conversations healing?
Healing. I think having conversation and being honest. So I'm honest with you, and then I'm honest with me, is absolutely healing. So my belief around, say, blood cancer is that my blood is beautiful and rich and bright. And I have this thing, because I'm so visual, that cancer grows in the dark. And so when I'm healing, my blood is so bright and beautiful and shiny. And we're having this amazing conversation. And that's the part of when you are so in alignment with your truth. Because sometimes
when we share
truth, well, yes, but when we're sharing truth, I speak my truth for me.
Exactly.
That's healing.
Exactly.
And when you're speaking your truth, you're speaking your truth for you. Is that like super, super cool? And no one's trying to say, hang on a minute, Rosabel, why don't you want to grow the business? And why don't want you to get to 7 figures? Why? Because it's not part of your thing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I absolutely think when you are speaking
I get emails all the time about do this. You're right. Why don't you do this? And I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Because I don't know. I feel.
No, I love that. And what I also love though is that you are self-reflecting on going, wow, do I really think that? Do I really feel that? That is so cool, because reflection is where the growth takes place in my world, I believe, is when you're looking at things through clear lenses, not colored lenses of what social media tells you a successful business should look like. I think that is so cool.
I feel like for me, it always been part of me. When we bottle things, when we don't get things out, it festers. It makes us sick.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes. Yes,
And
it does.
so for me, not being able to express myself, to communicate. And this is the craziest thing, but that is the reason, honestly, why I made the podcast. And one day I woke up with the idea. It's like, hey, I want to have people here who feel free to just speak their truth, honesty and raw, and how you feel without feeling judged. Or, it's just being you. And that's such a liberating.
And it really, really is. And one of the things that I do and I teach as well is that when emotions come up, and this is in with what you're saying, when an emotion comes up, whether it's for me that it was, especially in the living through cancer lane, a lot of emotion come up, or living through the business lane, loads of emotion come up. The difference between me and the old Bron who would have gone, hang on, I've just got to go finish these Facebook ads, I've just got to go finish these things over here, is now I name the emotion. And we know psychologically, we know neuroscience tells us that when we name an emotion, it provides a little bit of space. So for anybody who's listening who has got adversity going on and high emotion, when you name it, what it does is at the moment it's sitting like that on your face, right? When you name that, it just pushes it back and it's providing a bit of space. And in my case, what I then say is everything that I do for me is all based on the serenity prayer, which is God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, please just insert whoever you believe, universe, source, God, Dennis, whoever, doesn't matter. It's just about remembering, and that's why I say I'm finding serenity now moments, because when I push that away, I then have space to go, I can then actually work through controlling the controllables. It's controllable. What's something that is part of this whole situation that I can control, meaning delegate, work through, whatever it is. I then pause. I then reflect. And then I can respond. But I might have to rinse and repeat that 30 times if it's a really big thing going on. But when we do that, it's like what you're saying. That's living your truth, speaking your truth. And in my case, that's where the blood just goes. Yeah, happy days. Bron is doing the work here. Good on you. And off she goes. So yeah, I think I hope that all makes sense.
Oh, totally. And the way I live my life, the way I like to look at it all is, let me tell you what we have. What we have for sure is here and now.
Yes.
The past is the past. The future doesn't come. And when we are able to focus on living the moment, mindfulness is such a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. I love to practice it at every moment. And it's so simple. I tell my patients, I tell people, I said, when you find yourself that you're like everywhere, just close your eyes and begin just by feeling where you're seated, where you are in this world, in this moment. It brings you to your breath. And so what that allows me to do, and it could allow many people if we practice that, is that way when I'm here with you, I'm giving my all to you. We have each other's attention. When the camera's turned off and it's time to go to dinner, then with your family, you're there with them. To me, that helps me not to feel guilty later on and say, oh, but I'm doing this and no, because somebody comes back to me, I said, no. When I was with you, whether it was an hour or two, I give you my 100% my best. I was there with you. I wasn't thinking about work or what I got to do tomorrow. And I practice that every day. I mean, I literally challenge myself to do that with my patients and everything I do.
And that is the most key to anything in life. For me, I have my favorite saying. It's actually going to be the name of my book that's coming out. be where your feet are. Be where your feet
Exactly.
are. So when it's happening and you're closing your eyes, even look down and go, okay, that's where my feet are. And as exactly the same as what you're saying, feel it, feel your feet, monitor your breath, do the box breathing if necessary. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. If Navy SEALs can do that, so can we. And so that mindfulness is, I think, and it's all learned. This is the best part about all of this stuff, is that it's all learned. Thinking about, I've walked into the Cancer Institute, it'd have to be 50 times now, and I would walk in very anxious, very, very anxious and scared, a lot of fear, and it would start 2 days before. And I am now at a place, it's taken 3 years, mind you, I'm now at a place where I can walk into that Cancer Institute. I am so consciously present and mindful that I do not have anxiety around what's going to happen next through the double doors. And I've had some big shocks. I call them left-hand turns. But, you know, in October, November, one of the cancer markers started to rise. And I thought, oh, here we go. And that's what happens with an incurable disease, is that it starts to come back. So here I am thinking it's going to come back, and I'd ask questions like, is it going to spike? Is it going to plateau? What's it going to do? Because remembering built on certainty, I wanted to know what's coming next, knowing that they can't answer me. They go, oh, well, you know, it could do this. And I'm going, great, cool. So over January, February, I was working very hard to stay present. Do those mindfulness things like what you're talking about. And remembering, guys, it's not just one time a day and we're done. It might be 30 times, as depending on the size of the adversity. And I've had 2 months in a row now. So this marker rose. And then over a month ago, it dropped right back into more normal than it's been for 2 years. Full remission. 2 months in a row now. I call it a miracle. So I think of it like a leave pass. I'm on a leave pass. What am I going to do with my leave? Because we know in the medical space that things can change. But when I don't worry about it, I don't ruminate about the past, I don't project into the future. I think about the now. And same in business. We do that. We stay here. Good, amazing things. You show up. You show up every week. Look at you. And amazingness after you've already worked 40 hours. Like, is that not the coolest thing ever? I'm sorry, but I just want to congratulate you on that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I have another podcast after that. I usually do sometimes. It's amazing that, and I love it. But again, it's because it's a passion and I love it. And wow, I was gonna say something. So there's one thing I've learned about working in medicine. This is thing I tell sometimes my patients, I notice something. Yes, there are chronic diseases. There's a lot of bad disease out there that will take our life, you know, if given the chance or whatever, right? But I can tell you this, that I've noticed, that worry and fear will kill anyone faster. And
yes,
I'm always a proponent of, I know it's not easy. And by the way, while you were talking, I was just thinking about this. I'll say this. So I wrote a book. It's called The Courage to Succeed. It's for American.
I saw that.
Yes. But I had it in written, but the audiobook, it had taken me over a year and a half to do it. And finally, it was out now May 5th, right? And so, you know, you write a book, you read it, you think about it, and life goes on. But I think 2 days ago, I listened the book. You know, I listened it. And I was like, wow, that is just so cool, because, you know, you tend to forget about things you've been through and whatnot. And it had taken me to realize the fact, like I mentioned it to you, worry and fear will kill us faster than any disease. And it reminded me of a chapter in my book that is called, I cannot remember the title, honestly, at the top of my head, but something that I used to tell myself when I was a little kid about fear. Okay, courage. I think courage is not the absence of fear. Me, it's more like, I'm afraid, but I'm still here. I'm afraid, but I'm still moving forward. Because as you move forward, whatever it is, I literally felt it begins to dissipate. whatever it was, like this huge mountain or like a big, I don't know, black, as you go through, it's like, oh, it's really not that big. That it's not what I thought, because you said
Yep.
it, our minds are like catastrophized, make this, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing, and I tell that to my patients a lot of times. So that's why you could have two people, that have perhaps the same disease, very similar things, and one fully recovers and the other one doesn't. And that's where the whole mood, the whole whatever you feed your mind with, that is just so, so important. I've seen it in my own life. There used to be a time in my life when I will go through the same road and I'll perhaps be negative about something, but one day I changed my mindset and the same problem, the same issue still there. That has not changed, but I have changed. And that doesn't bother me any longer. It's no longer a problem to me.
And that,
I
my
love it.
friend, is letting be. You stopped
Exactly.
giving it energy. You stopped the energy. So that's the thing, is that we always think it's a to-do thing, to do something. We're called human beings. We're not human doings. So when we're human beings, one thing I say around this bus is that I liken it to playing basketball. So imagine, but I'm just going to make it you and I, right? So you and I, Rosabel, we're on the basketball court, right? And we're going for it, and we're on a fence, right? I go for the shot and I miss it. Everyone is stunned silence, because I always get those shots and I missed it, right? So the coach, time out, get off. In Australia, get over here, get off. All right, so we're off. And in that moment, we have a choice. The choice is we can either pull apart what Bron just did, and Rosabel, where were you? Why didn't you support Bron? Or we can go, what's the next play? Not the next game, not even the remainder of the game, not the season, but the next play. And when we focus on the next thing, not all of the things, but just the next thing. So whether it be in business, whether it be in health, whether it be in any kind of adversity, when we stay where our feet are, when we practice those mindfulness, what it doesn't take, fear is not going to come away. I got given a prognosis and it had a single digit. I didn't ask for that prognosis. And is it even real? Because when I started to probe into it, I found out that the disease is normally for someone who's over 70. They go through 3 rounds of treatment and then they say that's enough. And then they pass away. How is that relevant to me at my age? So be mindful of what you listen to. So we want to focus on the next play. Not, well, when we get off this podcast, I'm going to go sit outside with my doggies. I'm going to enjoy the most beautiful autumn morning here in where I live. And I'm just going to let it be. The serenity.
I have some roses out there, and I was thinking I'm going to go there, take a look at the roses, everything that I can do in the middle. I do the silly. People see me walking out there in the middle of my shift, during my lunch hour.
Yeah.
I go and have lunch out that under the trees, walk back and forth. People look at me like, I'm just like,
and that's
the clock. Go, next
and you know what? What you're doing is you're actually looking after yourself.
Yes.
That's self-care 101. And I think once we start letting go of having to control everything and having to have all of the answers, all the dots joined together, the dots are joining, guys, but they're joining behind you. Because we just can't.
Yeah, the way I do it, and I think of it is and I've said this before, I feel like a hypocrite if I go sit out there and say, oh, so I recommend that you go and walk 30 minutes, 30, 60 minutes, 4 times a week. Because to be honest with you, just something that I tell often. I'm like, I can't do that myself, and I do it myself. And I go and I walk and I go up the stairs and I make sure that I go to bed at the same, because that's one of the main recommendations I give my cognitive patient, say, hey, for cognitive, you need to have a structured routine. You need to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. Like, okay. And I'm here with you and I'm doing it with you. Isn't that amazing?
I love that. And people sometimes think, oh, but it's so simple, Bron. Yeah, no. It can't possibly work if it's too simple. No, that's the whole point. We've been complicating it all so much. And it's not stopping things coming at us. It's not stopping or ignoring, which is what relentlessness does. What resilience does, what resilience when you are in alignment, when you are doing exactly what you say you're going to do, but without the disrespect of myself, it gives you strength. It gives you, like people ask me, well, Bron, why are you doing this? Like, hello, shouldn't you be, doing whatever? And it's like, well, thank you so much. I will until I can't. And my cup is so full. Like when you said to me before, is this healing? Absolutely, it's healing. My cup is full.
Healing, yes.
I am so grateful. I have so much gratitude because gratitude and grief can coexist. It's not rainbows and lollipops. Having a prognosis of an incurable cancer, let me tell you, there is no rainbows and there is no lollipops. But I am so at peace with where I'm at, because where I'm at is just here. And then to me, it's just, well, the next play, then the next play. And then because that's motivation when you actually take an action of the next thing without worrying about all the other things.
All the invaluable things that you're learning. To me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Life. I find life interesting. To me, life is, it's like this book with blank pages and like, what's the next page we're going to be writing about? And I get excited about, I want to see what is it going to be like. It's exciting.
It is very exciting.
Who's in that read through the years.
And knowing that there are chapters to write no matter what comes. The thing is, the difference is that we all have question mark. There's only one way off this earth, guys, and we're all going to be taking that road. We don't know when, but we want to live every moment because tomorrow's guaranteed to no one. And it's so exciting. There are chapters to write no matter where you are, no matter what your age is, and no matter what your prognosis or disease or illness is. There are chapters to write, and you're the only one who can write them, which is the best part, is that you get to put what's in that book. That's what an active participant does. You get to choose what's in the book. And that's, for me, that's my serenity. That's my serenity now moment. That's my serenity. I can have serenity in a complete chaos. I can have serenity sitting in that cancer institute, having an infusion.
That is a true definition of peace. I think I've seen that picture. There is this little beautiful, like a bird that's sitting in the middle of a storm and he's singing, That's happy with him. It's a lot of stuff going around, and life is like that.
It's lovely because he's realized, God, grant me serenity to accept what I cannot change. He can't change the storm. Courage to change the things I can. Well, I'm just going to sit here and not fly around. The wisdom to know the difference. Go, little birds. Go, little bird. That is smart. A lot in the environment, in nature, can teach us a lot of things if we just take the time to look.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned the Serenity framework, so tell us a little bit more about that, like in depth. Tell us more.
I can never remember it off the top of my head, and that's the truth because of my memory recall issue. I have lots of different frameworks for different things. One of the frameworks is around that. I call it the capacity is the compass when it comes to energy and in life. So we want to really, and this is what happens if we live in the space like what we've been talking about. The capacity is the compass of how we live, not the calendar, not the to-do list, not the what social media tells you. So if we start with capacity, that I keep having to read it, right? Because we talk about energy over urgency, and we've already touched on that. So to me, the whole of my ecosystem, so I am my ecosystem and I'm the CEO, is all about energy. Which means that if it's an Ellen, there's a lady, Carol, I can't remember her name, Carolyn, you'll have to look it up, the spoon theory. Have you heard of the spoon theory? Yeah. So with the spoon theory, energy, how many spoons have we got today? Is it a 10-spoon day? Because each energy, what tasks take away from that energy? And it's like a spoon, right? So some days you're going to have 10 spoons, some days you're going to have 2. So we put energy over urgency, especially in business. The world is not going to stop if you don't post your social media for the day, I assure you. And in business, it's about building a business model that has you at the center and that doesn't ignore you. So as I say for me, my business is built on the ecosystem of Bron. Whereas when I built my business, I built a business what everyone else said I should do. And even though it was successful, it wasn't successful for the ecosystem of Bron. So that's the other thing when I talk about in business and in life too, is to have that ecosystem where it is built around what is right for you, and just to not ignore how amazing and important you are to that business. Even like, yeah, you're in nursing, you're in education, you're educating, but don't want to take away from who you are. So yeah, that's the model.
Let me ask you this really quick, and I don't know what do you think about this, because again, it's all what occurs to me. Everybody, whoever owns their business or does their business, like you said, everybody has their own goals and whatnot. In my case, I'm gonna bring myself back in here. I like to think of the business not running me, right?
Correct.
And make it as authentic as possible. And part of making it authentic is, it's hard for me. I don't want to be doing the same thing that everybody's doing. Yes, there's a lot of podcasts out there. And the idea that everything is written, which, it might work for some people depending on their goals, like you said, oh, you have to post this many times, or you have to do this many, whatever, reels or whatever. It's whatever works for you, right?
It is.
I mean,
but yeah, it does. And it's tied into your goals. And it's also tied in, for me, it's tied into energy and how I want to feel. It's just, and the realities of that goal. Remember how I said before about if you go online, they're going to tell you to do 7 figures in 30 days? No. Because I know what is required to build something like that.
That is a great way to waste a lot of money on all this program to tell you, like, we're going to give you this, and it's happened to me in the past,
they're called internet marketers that look easy.
Exactly.
Building a business is a challenge because you're learning as you go. You don't know what's right or wrong, and you don't know, and you won't know until you've made a mistake. And you make many, many, many mistakes, and that's the thing.
Exactly.
And so if you tie to a timeline that is not doable, so in our space, like in marketing for the social coach.
Right. Let me just say this real quick. I find very interesting how I have colleagues and people who are like, oh, I want to stop working for these people because I want to go work for myself, because they think it's going to be somehow easier, but it can be even harder.
It's harder, but it's liberating. It really is. So if you are an entrepreneur at heart and that's your thing, go for it. But just build a business model is built around you, your values, what you believe, what's important. And every single one of us have a unique message to tell. No matter how many people are already out there doing what you think you're doing, they're not you. That's where finding your unique space is so important.
Bron,
my pleasure. I
really do.
Yeah, and I love them too. So, and it's if we can provide a conversation. My favorite thing is you want to create awareness for someone to be aware, because awareness is half the battle. When we raise that awareness, and then they can choose what is right for them. So if we can do that in our conversations, job well done.
That is beautiful. And also would like to stay in touch with you and keep us,
I would
like
love
I say about
that.
winning, and tell us about your journey, how things are going. I mean, it's just.
I would love to. I will.
Yes.
I definitely will stay in touch.
How can people get in touch with you?
I think the easiest way is, obviously we have the serenityproject.com.au for those who are living through their carers, their professionals. It's for all of that. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, just Bron Watson, and send me a message, DM me, and I answer every single person. So any question is never too great or too small.
Thank you so much, Bron. Before we go, I always like to ask my guests, if there's one thing that people can take from this conversation, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing that I would love people to take away is just be where your feet are. That's it. Just be where your feet are.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your story. It takes a lot of courage to open your heart to the world and talk about the things that we carry, even when who knows how many people goes around, it's like, who cares, because you heard that a lot. Of some people don't care what you have to say or whatever, But you know what? We care enough to share it. And for those who care, thank you so much. Thank you for being there. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you so much. And until next time, don't forget to continue to live your life unscripted. Goodbye, everybody.